Truckers of Reddit, what's the scariest thing you've seen driving at night? Pulled over for a break on the way to Melbourne from Sydney at a truck stop. No streetlights or anything, pitch black. No other trucks or cars at the stop. I turn off my lights. I switch the truck off. Do the curtains. Lock the truck from both sides. Jump into bed. Set my alarm and set my phone above me in the compartment. I was rolling over from side to side for around 5 to 10 minutes. I couldn't get to sleep due to it being prime summer temperatures reaching around 30 degrees at night. I'm looking up at the ceiling, mentally planning out the day ahead. Suddenly, the passenger side door opens up slightly. Cabin light turns on. What the fuck? Now, the truck is fairly a late model and in pristine condition, so there's no question about door being faulty or anything. I just sat there for what felt like eternity, expecting someone to come up and see me sitting there with a solid rod in my hand that we use for tightening belts. No one came up, nor was there any noise at all, just quiet, eerie silence. I grabbed my torch and jumped down, walked around the truck. No other trucks were around, nor were there any cars. It was just me and my fully loaded B-double. After around 5 to 10 minutes of getting fucked around with, I locked up and went to bed again. Woke up next morning, yawned, fixed myself up along with the bed, opened the curtains, and there's a cemetery next to the stop where I parked. Hunger and laziness all escaped upon realization. Grabbed keys, fuck putting shoes on, fuck putting pants on, switched truck on, and then just got the fuck out of there ASAP. Cultural note. In Australia, B-doubles are truck combinations consisting of a prime mover towing 2 semi-trailers. They are commonly used for long-haul freight transport and are regulated for road safety. I have an Aussie story for you. My friend's dad was a trucker out of Perth, and this is the only story I've heard that's really given me the creeps. So he's driving back to Perth in convoy with a mate of his back to back, through the night, through the Nullarbor. If you know anything about Aboriginal legend, the Nullarbor is where the ancestor spirits walk, and also prime Yowie country. They radio each other because they realize they need to rest up and decide to sleep through to dawn and make Perth in the morning. So they pull over in the middle of this vast nothingness, lock up and hunker down for the night. At some point in the blackness, my friend's dad wakes up with this intense feeling of being not just watched, but stared down. He's not a superstitious guy either. He's a proper no-nonsense countryman. He says he just had this gut feeling that something was out there and wanted him gone. He says he scrambles up to the cab and chucks his keys in and turns his lights on, and at that exact second in the middle of the night, his mate does the same. Both trucks roar into life, and they take off down the highway without a word spoken between them. Later, his mate says he felt the same predatory state and fear for his life so hard that he'd have just gone Twitter. I don't know how true it is, but it's a good story and pretty creepy. Cultural note. The Nullarbor Plain is a remote, treeless region in southern Australia, often associated with Aboriginal spiritual beliefs and legends about ancestral spirits. It is also linked to sightings of the Yowie, a creature similar to Bigfoot. My boyfriend is a truck driver who routinely does midnight runs. Oddly enough, I asked him this question myself a few days ago. He told me that one night, he getting ready to park in a lot next to a truck stop. He said it looked like there was no lights, no cars, no sign of anyone, but he said screw it, he was tired. He woke up the next morning parked on the side of the road with 3 highway patrol vehicles behind him. He was about 15 miles away from the truck stop he parked at. Thing is, he was sleeping in his camper the whole night. He has no idea how he got on the side of the road, and logic says someone tried stealing the truck and succeeded, and the police convinced him of this happening as they saw A man in a black jumpsuit running away from his truck into a nearby field. Even then, he still feels uneasy about the whole situation. Apparently, the doors were still locked from the inside, and there was no real sign of anyone trying to break in. Added just a few extra details I thought I should add. The police did breathalyze for alcohol, and it came up clear. Even more unsettling is that he puts his keys in the same place every night, which is next to his handgun in one of those metal boxes which remained untouched. Also, the police officers could not locate where the man in the jumpsuit was or could have gone. It was an open field with no building in sight. And they didn't actually stop the truck or see it moving. The only reason they decided to check on the truck was because of a call they received from a worried woman. Everyone was weirded out. Couldn't really issue any real fines, so they let my boyfriend leave. 2 stories. Maybe not winners, but creepy overnight parking for sure. I was really new to the business and had parked at a stop in Texas en route from one place to another. It was August. There was nothing unusual about this situation. I was in the middle of a parking lot with 70-odd other trucks. I woke up with a start 6 hours later to the truck shaking and rolling, hellacious noise all around, and a psychedelic light show blasting me from every direction. It was a severe thunderstorm that I'd had no idea was coming. Wind, pounding rain, thunder, and lightning to beat hell. Being in a truck during a storm is closer to being in a tent than in a house. I'd never experienced it before. And even though I grew up with this kind of severe weather, I lay there in this tossing, heavy sensory party going, I don't even know where I'd go right now to get safe if I had to. Hell, I don't even know how to find out if this is severe or regular or a tornado. I was really tired the next morning. 2. I parked for the night somewhere in southwest Michigan on the way to Grand Rapids. Again, a truck stop full of trucks, shut down and went to bed. I woke up looking at one of the cabin lights which was on. I think, fell asleep with the lights on again, genius. Then freeze. The light I'm looking at only comes on if you deliberately turn it on, which I never did, or if the door is open. Just then I felt the slight roll of the cab that's telltale whenever someone is climbing up. I wish I had some heroic Rambo shit I could claim I did, but I can't, I yelled. Now, I can make myself heard in very loud environments pretty easily, and this was the dead of a quiet night, and I yelled, "Get out!" loud enough to send Legion into the Gerasene pigs. There was a frenzied scrambling, and the truck rocked some more. Then I hear a very small woman's voice. "I'm sorry, I got the wrong truck." Nothing from me for a second, then, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, just get the fuck out of here." Moral of that story, lock your doors. She was either a driver or a prostitute, and it doesn't matter because, either way, she got the wrong truck. Cultural note. The phrase, "I shouted so loud it could have sent Legion into the Gadarene swine," refers to a New Testament Bible story, Mark 5 verses 1 to 13, in which Jesus encounters a man possessed by many demons who call themselves Legion. Jesus casts them out, and they enter a herd of pigs, which then rush into a lake and drown. This dramatic scene is often used figuratively to describe a powerful expulsion of something evil. I was at the Petro in Memphis. I had dropped a loaded trailer and bobtailed to the truck stop and parked in bobtail parking at the Petro. I was pretty tired but hungry, so I went in, got a meal, and walked out and opened the door to my truck and started climbing up. I looked up right into the face of a guy grinning at me. I was in the wrong truck. I had parked next to him. We both drove for the same mega carrier, so the trucks were identical. He had watched me go in and knew what was up. We both had a good laugh about it, and I went to my truck and crashed. Cultural note. In the U.S., bobtail refers to a tractor unit without a trailer. Mega carriers often operate fleets of identical trucks, which can easily lead to mix-ups at large truck stops. A couple years ago, I was sleeping in my van in North Hollywood after getting off of work. I had the seats folded down and a long plywood plank with a mattress on top of them, so I was elevated at windows level, but they were tinted. Woke up late one night and was startled by a guy standing outside staring into the van and talking to himself. I realized he wasn't trying to look in, but was looking at his reflection. I don't know how long he had been there, but he was there for another 15 minutes until he staggered off. Have a trucker story from the extended family. An uncle used to drive a lot, and he always came back with the most weirdest stories ever. While every family member knew his stories, there was one story he told and warned about. Even to me when I was 6 or so. Moral of the story is to never stay during night in the desert alone. It seems once he drove to Chile, he had a contract, and the weather was okay. I made the travel myself later in life. It's beautiful. Whenever he was done, he usually spent a few bucks on booze, but this time, due to a family gathering, he wanted to come back as soon as possible. So instead of drinking in some bar, he decided to sleep a bit at the Atacama Desert. Well, it's a desert, and he had parked way outside the road and a few miles before the next village. He sleeps and wakes up on someone singing. He is confused and thinks it's the radio, but the radio is not on. Then the singing stops, and it sounds more like a scream of help. That's when he wants to get out and help, but still he is confused. He said he started the motor and the lights to see where and who was there. He also did open the window a bit and yelled, asking what happened. It was nothing, and right then when he decides to get out anyway, he catches a movement in the corner of where the lights end. It looked like a woman, but the face was pitch dark. He freaks out and drives away, non-stop until he reached home. Whatever he saw or thought he saw, every time he told the story his face went pale. Even my grandmother commented how he was usually a very jolly guy, but whatever happened in the Atacama Desert freaked him totally out. Cultural note: the Atacama Desert in Chile is one of the driest places on Earth and sparsely populated. Local legends often include mysterious desert spirits or apparitions. Like most people here, this didn't happen to me. One of my good friends from middle school had a stepfather who was a truck driver for a good amount of time. He was a tough son of a bitch. I never saw him not look like he could kill someone, except one time when he told us why he stopped driving trucks. He was on a long trip from somewhere down in Texas to Boise, Idaho. By the time he hit the freeway close to Boise, he had already been up for 24 hours. Either way, I don't believe he could have seen this coming outside of Boise. He was driving late at night at the fastest legal speed when out of nowhere he sees someone sit straight up in the middle of the road. He didn't have enough time to even hit the brakes. Not that it would have helped. She was decapitated on the spot. He later found out she was tweaked out. I don't think even if he wasn't sleep deprived, he would have seen her lying in the road. From what the police could gather, she walked out there, sat down, and eventually fell asleep in the road. No one knows who she was or how she got that far out. One of my trucker friends has a story about spending the night alone in a rural stop in the middle of a Maine winter. She had a bit of an uneasy feeling about the place, but couldn't put her finger on anything and needed badly to rest, so she stayed. Perfect Stephen King setup, right? She's usually a very solid sleeper, but wakes up around 3 a.m. that night. She's not quite sure what woke her up, until she notices that the cab is very slowly and gently rocking side to side. She can also hear an intermittent soft sort of rubbing sound that corresponds with the rocking. She was a seasoned trucker already at this point, but really wasn't sure what this was. and all the ideas that came to mind ranged from the mundane but alarmingly unsavory to the outright paranormal. Terrified, she creeps up to look in the side view mirror to see what's out there. Turns out some moose like to lick the road salt off of semi-trucks. Cultural note: in northern U.S. states like Maine, road salt used to melt ice can attract wildlife like moose, who sometimes lick the residue off parked vehicles. Not a trucker, but I drive a lot of miles in a company truck for my oil field company. I am on call 24/7, so I am out at all hours. One night, after a long day on a location in the Oklahoma Panhandle, which is rather remote and sparsely populated, I was driving back to the town where my shop is located. I got too sleepy to drive and decided to pull over and nap until the sun came up. So I pulled off of the 2-lane highway down a county road and parked on the side of that road. It's safer than pulling off on the shoulder of the highway, and no headlights to bother you. This was common practice for me. I left my pickup running and turned the headlights off and leaned my seat back and fell asleep pretty quick, with the AC on low and the radio turned off. I slept pretty good for maybe an hour, and then I guess I was having strange dreams, so I woke up but just kept laying there because I was groggy. The wind was picking up and sort of shaking the truck with random strong gusts. Lots of wind in Oklahoma. Eventually, I started to imagine I was hearing whispering or murmurs, but I attributed it to the wind and my sleepy state, or maybe the radio being still on but low volume. I kept hearing it, so I sat up and turned the headlights back on to look around. The lights illuminated the dirt road to my side and in front of me, about 50 feet in front of my truck, and extending down the road into the dark where my headlights faded out, were maybe 20 coyotes all milling around and sniffling around in the gravel of the road, their eyes reflecting in the lights. Coyotes usually run from light and avoid humans and their noise at all cost. There was no fear in these coyotes, and I was sort of struck by how many there were all standing in the road. They all eventually moved off into the dark as a group. I wasn't really afraid as I was inside my truck, but my feeling was an uneasy one. So I got back on the highway and went home. Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was delivering and installing machines for the company I was working for. I was in a 26-box truck with 12 machines in the back. I was having trouble with the truck the day before, had it checked out by the rental company, and they said it was all good. Since I was behind schedule due to the truck and problems with installations, I decided to drive late to my next destination. It was about 11 o'clock at night on a state route through the Upper Peninsula. There were no street lights. There were no other cars. The headlights from my truck were the only thing illuminating the road. I was already creeped out. At the peak of feeling like I was in the middle of nowhere, because I was in fact in the middle of nowhere, every single light on the dashboard of the truck lit up, and then it stalled. Now it's pitch black, unstopped, and the truck isn't restarting. Rather than eat up the battery trying to turn it over, I shut everything down and started making phone calls. As I was calling everyone and anyone that would listen, I sat in the dark night, with the only light being from my hazard lights. I looked up and saw something move in front of the truck, just out of range of the flashing lights. At first, I thought it was my imagination. I finally got a hold of someone, and they told me it would be 2 to 3 hours before a mechanic could get to me. Now I'm sitting in silence. The only noise is the clicking the hazard lights are making, and I'm staring out the windshield into a void of darkness when I see movement again. Just as I was about to shit my pants, my phone rang, which nearly secured the pants shitting, because it scared the hell out of me. It was a mechanic who wanted me to get out, open the hood, and check some things out. No, I'm not getting out of the truck, I told him, and explained why. He was irritated, but I didn't care. Finally, after seeing the movement just out of range of the lights one more time, I turned on the high beams. The headlights caught 3 wolves snacking on something that looked like roadkill. I honked the horn, and they looked at me more annoyed than scared. I was safe, wolves likely wouldn't bother me, but it was spooky just knowing they were there. So I shut the lights off. Occasionally, I'd turn the lights back on to check. Each time, the wolves were still there. Just to remind you, I am in the middle of nowhere. No homes, no businesses, nothing but trees, wilderness, and wolves. Then I heard what I can only describe as a woman screaming in terror right behind the truck. Something slammed into the side of the truck hard enough to rock it. I turned on every light the truck had, slipped it into reverse so the backup lights came on, and laid on the horn. I checked the mirrors. All I saw was a shadow darting across the road. I also noticed the wolves were gone. Whatever crossed the road didn't go far. I could hear it thrashing in the brush, breaking sticks and logs. It was close. Eventually, I saw headlights behind me. It took forever for them to reach me. The noise stopped as they approached. It was the mechanic. As he opened his door, we both heard the scream again, louder this time. The mechanic immediately closed his door and called me. He asked what the hell that was. I had no idea. He called the police. 2 Michigan State police officers arrived. They lit up the entire area like a stadium. I stepped out of the truck for the first time. We heard the scream 3 more times while the mechanic worked. Thankfully, each time it was farther away. The cops had no clue what it was. They were spooked too. The mechanic got the truck running. I made it to my hotel. In the morning, I inspected the truck. On the side that had been hit, there was a dent the size of a basketball about 7 feet off the ground. I have no idea what it was, but I do know I'll never drive through the Upper Peninsula at night again.